Dang it. Man, I can't beat this game. Hey guys, it's your host James. We're going to be talking about retro video games today and the history of video games leading up to today. And then I'm going to show you where you can play some of these retro video games. Sound like fun? Let's jump into it. Ooh. I do not recommend those Mario pipes. They're kind of dirty. Now, the first video game that I played was actually Doom 2 on the computer. And what was special about it to me was it's the first video game I remember playing where I had my own screen, but I was playing with my brothers and my dad. We had 3 computers in the house. We had my dad's laptop, we had our computer, and my mom's computer. And my brother, who was very tech savvy, figured out how to network these computers together for us to play Doom together. So when I saw another Marine on screen, I was like, Dad, who is that? And my dad's like, that's your brother. And I went, what? And I ran into the next room, and sure enough, there's my brother playing. I went, whoa! Blew my mind, okay? So I ran back over, started playing, and I loved it. And he and I went through the entire game, and we won. It was awesome. Now, a question I want to pose to you is, what game do you first remember playing? Was it something like Call of Duty? Was it Tetris? Was it Angry Birds? What was that first game for you? Think about it for a second. Doom 2 and another handful of games from that era are considered retro games. Retro is imitative of style, art, and fashion of a certain time period. So if I dressed like, for example, Bill Nye the Science Guy, I'd be dressing in a retro look from the 90s when Bill Nye did his science show. Now, when you think retro games I want you to kind of think about are games like Pac-Man, Dig Dug, Asteroids, and Space Invaders. Now, my favorite retro arcade game is actually Galaga. Galaga is my favorite because it was the first arcade game that I played, and it was the first arcade game where I could actually play very well. I mean, Space Invaders is really similar, but I just couldn't beat Space Invaders. But Galaga, oh, that's my jam. So let me pull up my whiteboard here and show you what I prepared for today's lesson before we get into the demonstration to play some of these online arcade games. The first game that we want to talk about was a game called Space War. Space War was the first widely available and influential computer game of its time. Next up, we're going to have the first home console, which was the Magnavox Odyssey. And the first modern arcade machine and the first video game that is credited is Pong. Pong is this game here where you are controlling paddles, bouncing a ball back and forth, trying to get it past the paddle to score on that player. Now, like I said, we're going to go over a brief history of the video games because there is so much to cover. To satisfy your curiosity, what I'm going to do is I'm going to link below all the sources I use to get all this information, and I encourage you to go on there and look at the timelines they have for video games and see how video games progress through time. There is so much to cover, I just can't do it in one video. So let's move on to the golden age of video games. Arcades started popping up worldwide and started getting filled with arcade cabinets that were Galaxian, Galaga, Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, Dig Dug. Now, in some countries, what happened, because these games were so popular, it actually caused coin shortages. Here in the US, we had quarters. Over in Japan, they had 100 yen coins. And they actually had a shortage of those coins because people were playing so many games. So they actually had to print more to keep up with demand to fight pixel aliens and monsters. Now, one thing I want to talk about and touch on is how modern video games almost didn't happen with the crash of 1983. Now, that is the crash of video games. The industry almost collapsed. Here's what happened. The Atari 2600, which was the most popular console at its time, was oversaturated with very poor quality video games. And what happened is these video games were developed within the course of weeks. This game here, E.T. for example, this is the actual pixel art of what E.T. looked like in E.T.'s video game. It sold well, but the rumor had it that there were too many copies than Atari 2600s in existence. They made more games than consoles available out there. Why would they do that? Well, they expected that there would be a high demand for this game, and therefore they would make more consoles. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. And rumor had it for a very long time that what Atari did is they emptied their warehouses, they emptied their stores of all this merchandise, and they put it in a landfill in Arizona. That landfill was privately owned and was then sealed with cement. Years later, they went ahead and allowed an excavation team to go in to check and see if the rumors were true that there were dump trucks of Atari ET games in the middle of the Arizona desert. And what they found was that it was true. These here are some of the pictures of the actual cartridges found at the landfill. Now, it wasn't just ET's problem, it was a problem of no quality control. So what happened was, Nintendo saved the day. Nintendo's new console, the NES, ushered in the third generation of video game consoles. And it brought in franchises like Super Mario Bros., The Legend of Zelda, Metroid, and many, many, many others, just to name a few. And it's sort of the domino effect that would cause the video game industry to boom. Now, it was an 8-bit system, and it boasted better processing and better graphics, so you could actually do more complex games with it. Game publishing for the NES was directly oversighted by Nintendo to ensure quality games were released. Because there are so many console generations and so many consoles to go with them, we're only covering the current generation of consoles and the next generation of consoles. But I will leave a link below to the other generations if you want to take a look. The current 8th gen of consoles, which is the generation we are currently in, is considered the following consoles: the Nintendo 3DS, PlayStation Vita, the Xbox One, the Wii U, the PS4, and the Nintendo Switch are all considered 8th generation consoles. Alright guys, now we're gonna move on to the Internet Arcade. Before you go to the Internet Arcade, or before I tell you how to get there, you need to get your parents' permission before you go there. You are going to a website that you probably haven't heard of or haven't been to before. So please get your parents' permission before getting on this website and skipping ahead, okay? I'll wait here while you guys go ask, okay? Go ahead and do that. What's that noise? Oh, Bill! Whew, okay. Now, you got your parents' permission? Great. We're gonna move on to the next part, and the next part will take place on the computer. Hey guys, surprise, I have a webcam! I'm gonna be showing you how to get to archive.org. So, open up your web browser and click on the top URL somewhere up there. And I want you to type archive.org. It's spelled archive.org, archive.org. Hit enter and it's gonna take you to this website here. So, from this page here, I want you to scroll down until you find this button here called the Internet Arcade. Click on that and it's going to take you to this page here. Now that you're at this page, you can already see there are some arcade games already popping up, but we are going to filter it by the Internet Arcade. What I want you to do up in this corner here where it says Collection, I want you to click the button that says Internet Arcade. That way it shows you all the ones you have access to play right now at home. Let's go ahead and scroll down a little bit, and there's so many games here. Some of these I haven't played, some of them I have played. Now, let's see, what game? You know, we're gonna play Tron, okay? Now, getting these games to work is a little bit of a trick, but once you click on it, you're gonna have this option here where it says click to begin. I'm gonna go ahead and click to begin, and it's going to load a MAME emulator. So this is an emulator that makes the computer think it is an arcade machine. Tron is a coin-operated arcade video game manufactured and distributed by Bally Midway in 1982. Here, I encourage you to read through it. It's got some really cool stuff in here. Now, I'm gonna go back, and there's so many other games here. Alright, I'm gonna see you guys back over at the desk. Now, if you want to explore other games on there, see what it was like about 30 years ago, and see how video games have progressed since then. Like I said, there are links below to all the history of video games and links to the Internet Arcade. Until next time, I've been your host, James, and I will see you later.